Last month, I finally accomplished the task of riding every operating stand-up roller coaster by Bolliger and Mabillard. Granted, this sounds more exciting than it actually was because there are only 5 in operation, and yes, that includes Pipeline the Surf Coaster. I know its official design is called Surf Coaster, but for the sake of this video, it's a stand-up roller coaster. These 5 include Vortex at Carowinds, Riddlers Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Georgia's Scorcher at Six Flags Over Georgia, Green Lantern at Six Flags Great Adventure, and finally the technical stand-up coaster, but not called a stand-up coaster, Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. Now, I've also been on Chang, which is currently Green Lantern when it was located at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom, and Mantis, which is now a floorless roller coaster called Rougarou, located at Cedar Point. I will not be including these 2 coasters in my official ranking, but near the end of the video I'll let you know where I think they should be ranked. Before we get to the ranking, please do me a favor by clicking on that like button, and if you are new to my channel, a fan of roller coasters and everything theme parks, make sure to subscribe. Number 5, Vortex, located at Carowinds, opened in 1992. Not only is Vortex the oldest roller coaster on my list, it's also the worst. Its first offense would be having a nasty rattle. It's not during the whole ride, but pops up now and again, bouncing your head off the restraints like a ping pong ball. The second offense, which is what I would say its main offense, providing a simple yet boring layout. I felt like a good chunk of the ride was just spinning around waiting to get to another element or something. Once the ride starts to get somewhat interesting, it's over and it reminds me how rough this attraction is. Operations on most stand-up roller coasters are pretty abysmal, and Vortex is no exception. You could be stuck waiting in line forever, only to be greeted by a ride experience that should have been skipped in favor of more laps on Ferry 325. That's if it's operating at this time. Number 4, Green Lantern, located at Six Flags Great Adventure, opened in 2011. Alright, so Green Lantern may be uncomfortable to ride, but at least it has a solid layout. I've always been a fan of the incline loop, and it's a shame that B&M stopped making these inversions right along with their older stand-up models. If B&M can revive the stand-up coaster, then I want more incline loops in future projects. Number 3, Riddler's Revenge, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain, opened in 1998. I only had the opportunity to ride this roller coaster once, and what I remember was baking on the brake run, waiting for the train to pull back into the station, and it was like a super hot day. Like literally it was 116 degrees that day. The ride is also a pretty forceful experience similar to Green Lantern. Both roller coasters feature similar layouts. The biggest difference is the additional dive loop on Riddler's Revenge. As of this video, Riddler's Revenge remains the tallest, fastest, and longest stand-up roller coaster in operation. Seeming that the new surf coaster design might be a little bit more subdued experience, Riddler's Revenge may be able to hold on to that record for many years to come. Number 2, Georgia's Scorcher, located at Six Flags Over Georgia, opened in 1999. The newest of all the older stand-up coasters, and yes, even though Green Lantern opened in 2011, it was originally built in 1997 as Chang. So yes, Georgia's Scorcher is the newest of the old. With that said, B&M went back to their roots, reducing the stats, including lesser inversions, with only 2. I think this was the right move because Georgia's Scorcher is a solid roller coaster. I think the forces are decent, the layout is pretty smooth, though there was a little head banging during the corkscrew. Besides that though, I thought this was actually a decent ride that I wouldn't have a problem riding again. The ride sits at the very front of the park, so if you aren't mesmerized by Goliath flying overhead, you'll probably be watching and listening to Georgia's Scorcher roar as it flips through its twisted layout. Now, before we get to my number 1 pick, which by now you should know what it is, but anyways, you might be wondering where I would rank the 2 additional stand-up coasters I mentioned. Well, it's been over 20 years since I rode Chang, and 11 years since I was on Mantis, so a little difficult to rank, but judging off of my past memories, Chang is basically how I remember Green Lantern. So I will say it stays in 4th place. As for Mantis, I think it was slightly better than Chang or Green Lantern, and I would place it in 3rd. Number 1, Pipeline, the surf coaster, located at SeaWorld Orlando, opened in 2023. Clearly the best stand-up roller coaster in operation, Pipeline is a night and day improvement over the previous iteration of a stand-up coaster. The vest restraints, though a little restrictive on some riders, are much better than the hard over-the-shoulder restraints found on the old models. And the seats bob up and down with the forces of the ride, creating a more pleasant experience. Also, your legs are not restrictive to one place. Pipeline, you have that freedom to kick your legs out whenever you fly into a moment of airtime. Besides the improvement design, the layout is much better than any previous conception. I know that some will argue that Riddler's Revenge or Green Lantern are a lot more forceful, which they are. However, I would rather enjoy myself than having my legs turned into jelly. The more relaxed nature of Pipeline allows you to enjoy the experience and feel the airtime. I'm sure with the next design, B&M will include more inversions or whatnot, but I'm fine with this single inversion. It's nice that B&M was willing to stray from their typical looping formula and try something different. Finally, the ride features an LSM launch, a pretty forceful launch if you ask me. I think it's because that you're in the stand-up position, you feel the G-forces pressing against your chest. B&M didn't stop with a simple launch though, they included a nice bunny hill, a precursor of airtime for things to come. Well, that's my ranking of all operational stand-up roller coasters by B&M. I know my ranking might be a hot take to some because, well, I know there's a lot of people out there that really like Riddler's Revenge and Green Lantern, and I can understand that going for those more forceful ride experience. However, as for me, I just find it to be more uncomfortable than enjoyable. Well, tell me what you think of this ranking down in the comments. Until next time, this is X-Scream Thrills.